Intro, The Prophecinerator, calm, cinematic. In 1959, in a quiet Swiss home surrounded by mountains and silence, an old man spoke a prophecy that seemed impossible for its time. His name was Carl Jung, the psychologist who believed that the greatest danger to humanity was not war, not nuclear weapons, but the human mind itself. More than 60 years later, his warnings have come true with terrifying accuracy. Jung predicted the loneliness of social media, the addiction to screens, the rise of online personas, the collapse of individuality, and the explosion of tribal thinking that now dominates the digital age. He predicted the internet decades before it existed. Today we explore how he knew, what he warned, and why it's happening exactly as he foresaw. Chapter 1, The World Before the WEB. To understand Jung's prophecy, we must return to a time before smartphones, before Wi-Fi, before television dominated the mind. It's the year 1950. The world is rebuilding after the Second World War. Radios crackle with static. Phones are attached to walls, and news arrives slowly, one newspaper at a time. Information travels at the speed of paper and ink. People still look each other in the eyes, talk face to face, experience life with complete presence. Yet Jung sees something no one else can. While most scientists study behavior, Jung studies the soul of the human species, the deep psychic forces that shape civilizations, wars, religions, and consciousness itself. He sees technology rising like a new god. He sees the psyche expanding beyond the skin. He sees the ego inflating. He sees connection increasing and meaning vanishing, but how? What gave him this impossible foresight? Chapter 2, The Collective Unconscious. Jung's first Jung's central discovery was the collective unconscious, a hidden psychological network that connects every human mind. He believed that beneath our personal memories lies a vast mental ocean shared by every generation. Archetypes, instincts, myths, symbols, patterns. This invisible network is ancient, but Jung realized that humans were beginning to create a new version of it. A technological collective mind. An external, man-made psychic network. The internet. In 1946, 23 years before the first message was ever sent over ARPANET, the early form of the internet, Jung warned that humanity would soon build a globalized system of minds where information, images, fantasies, and emotions would move instantly between individuals. He didn't know the word internet, but he described its structure, its effects, even its dangers. He predicted that communication would accelerate beyond anything the psyche could handle. He predicted an age where information overwhelms wisdom. He predicted that images would spread faster than meaning. He predicted memes before the word existed, and he said, humanity will be faced with psychic epidemics far greater than physical ones. Today, the epidemics are clear: anxiety, depression, identity crisis, polarization, online personas, collective mental disintegration. Jung foresaw all of it. Chapter 3, The Future of the Mask. How Jung Predicted Social Media. One of Jung's most accurate predictions was the rise of the persona, the mask we show the world. In Jung's time, the persona was limited. A man had one persona at work. A woman had one persona in society. A person had one persona in public. But Jung warned, the persona will multiply. It will detach from the individual. It will become autonomous. Today we have one persona on Instagram, one on TikTok, one on Facebook, one on YouTube, one on LinkedIn, one in real life. We have become a collection of masks. And Jung predicted that these masks would eventually become more real than the self behind them. He feared a world where the persona becomes more important than authenticity. People lose themselves in images, identity becomes a performance. The self becomes a brand, social validation replaces inner truth. In 1951, he wrote, one day man will no longer live his own life, but the life of the image he has created of himself. This is social media. Perfectly predicted. Chapter 4, Influencers and the Ego Inflation. Jung warned Jung believed that the greatest psychological danger was ego inflation. The feeling of becoming larger, more important, more special than one truly is. In 1954, he said, the small man becomes a superman in his fantasies. Today, anyone can broadcast to millions, go viral overnight, build a following, create a digital empire. The internet made everyone potentially famous. But Jung warned that the psyche cannot handle fame without maturity. Ego inflation leads to narcissism, grandiosity, power fantasies, delusion, collapse. Jung predicted the influencer culture with astonishing precision. The rise of individuals whose identities are built on external attention, constant validation, and image-based significance. He warned that when fame becomes accessible to anyone, society will suffer a psychic meltdown. Chapter 5. The algorithmic SHADOW made an even darker prediction. He believed that anything suppressed in the mind becomes part of the shadow, the dark, unexamined, repressed side of the personality. He predicted that collective shadow forces would erupt on a global scale, and today, the shadow is everywhere. Algorithms magnify outrage, anger, tribalism, conflict, fear, hatred. The internet isn't just a technology. It is a living ecosystem of shadows. Jung would say, the internet is the shadow of humanity externalized. The things we hide offline appear online as anonymous cruelty, cancel culture, trolling, conspiracy, obsession, addiction to drama, digital rage. Jung warned us in 1957, we no longer have shadows. The shadows have us. He was describing a world where technology amplifies every unhealed wound. Chapter 6. The rise of eco-CHMBR. As Jung believed that the human mind is naturally tribal. We associate with those who share our beliefs, values, language, and identity. But the internet took this natural instinct and magnified it far beyond anything the psyche could handle. Jung described this future phenomenon as a mass-mindedness that destroys individual judgment. Today we call it echo chambers. Political bubbles, online tribes, identity groups, algorithmic polarization. Jung feared a future where thinking becomes simplistic, emotional, black and white, us versus them, and he warned that once the individual stops thinking for themselves, society becomes extremely vulnerable to propaganda. He predicted the problem of 2024, not fake news, but people willing to believe anything that matches their emotions. He said, the individual who cannot think for himself becomes a slave to collective delusion. The internet turned this prophecy into reality. Chapter 7. Digital addiction and the loss of the inner life. One of Jung's deepest warnings was about the disappearance of inner life. He said repeatedly, the modern human is losing the ability to sit alone with themselves. He predicted a future where people constantly seek stimulation to avoid confronting their inner emptiness. That future is today, scrolling, watching, posting, refreshing, consuming. Every moment of silence is filled with noise. Jung warned of a world where people fear boredom, people fear their own thoughts, people avoid introspection. People escape into external stimulation. He said, a man who cannot find his soul will run to countless distractions. He predicted screen addiction perfectly. Chapter 8. The digital Archetypes. Jung believed archetypes shape human behavior. If he saw the internet today, he would immediately recognize new digital archetypes: the observer, endlessly scrolling; the performer, always posting; the shadow warrior, anonymous aggressor; the guru, the influencer; the trickster algorithm, unpredictable, manipulative; the persona master, polished, curated identity; the lost self, overwhelmed by choices and noise. Jung would say, the internet is mythology reborn, because every platform is full of ancient psychological patterns repeating through technology. Chapter 9. Jung predicted AI. Before AI existed in 1955, Jung wrote something eerie. Man will create a mind outside himself, and he will fear it. He predicted artificial intelligence. He believed humans would build external representations of psyche systems that learn, think, remember, and decide. He predicted AI tools, predictive algorithms, machine personalities, human-machine merging. He even predicted digital immortality, memories stored outside the body. Jung saw a future where humanity builds a technological mirror of the unconscious, and then becomes terrified of its own creation. Chapter 10. Jung's final WR9G. Jung said the greatest danger of the future would be man's loss of his own soul in the face of overwhelming external forces. He feared that technology would outgrow the psychology of humanity. He feared a world where the persona replaces the self, the shadow dominates culture. The ego becomes inflated, inner life collapses, meaning evaporates, connection replaces. Intimacy data replaces wisdom. He predicted that humanity would become psychologically fragile because the digital world accelerates everything the psyche cannot digest. Chapter 11. The Internet as a New Collective Unconscious Narrator. Jung believed the collective unconscious was the invisible foundation of human psychology, a vast reservoir of memory, instinct, and imagination shared across the species. But he also warned that a time would come when humanity creates an external version of that inner world. One day we will project our unconscious into the outer world. We will build it outside ourselves. This is exactly what the Internet became. Think about it. 1. The Internet stores human memory just like the unconscious stores memories. The Internet stores old photos, forgotten posts, digital traces, hidden files, emotional fragments. It remembers everything. Even the things we wish it wouldn't point to. The Internet reveals symbolic pattern trends. Memes, viral moments, all are expressions of the collective psyche, infinite symbols. Infinite archetypes, infinite stories repeating. 3. The Internet connects all minds instantly. The collective unconscious connects minds symbolically. The Internet connects minds literally. Jung would say, we have externalized our unconscious. But he would also say, we are not ready for what we have created, because humanity built a new, psychological universe without understanding the one inside themselves. First, Chapter 12, The Digital Self and the Loss of Identity. Jung taught that identity must be rooted in something real, inner truth, inner values, inner purpose, but the Internet pushes identity outward. Likes, followers, shares, comments, reactions, metrics. Identity becomes a scoreboard, and Jung warned, a man who depends on the opinion of others becomes a prisoner of their judgment. Today, millions of people live in that prison. The digital self becomes a performance, a mask, a curated highlight reel slowly. The real self begins to disappear. People feel lost in their own lives, disconnected, unanchored, confused about who they truly are. Jung predicted it. Modern man is empty. He is a shell filled by the world. The Internet filled that shell with noise. Chapter 13. The Age of Hyperstimmulation. And Jung believed that the psyche is not built for constant stimulation. It needs silence. It needs emptiness. It needs space to process. But today, there's no silence, a vibration, a notification, a ping, a sound, a new post, a new trend, a new crisis. Every second, something demands your attention. Jung warned, the man who cannot find stillness will never discover his soul. If he were alive today, he would say the Internet has made stillness impossible. The result? Chronic anxiety, attention collapse, insomnia, emotional exhaustion, inability to focus, spiritual numbness. The modern mind is overstimulated to the point of fragmentation. Jung predicted exactly this. A world where people are drowning in psychological overload. Chapter 1-4. The tribes of the digital age. Jung believed humans naturally form tribes. It's ancient. It's biological. It's wired into the psyche, but he warned that future societies would become increasingly tribal, not physically, but psychologically. He said, the smaller the individual becomes, the louder the group must shout. Today, online tribes shout louder than ever. Political tribes, fandom tribes, social justice tribes, conspiracy tribes, influencer tribes, ideological tribes. Every group believes it has the truth. Every tribe believes it is morally superior. Every community becomes an echo chamber. And Jung warned that when people adopt group identity over individual thought, the result is mass psychosis, a collapse of independent thinking, a rise of emotional thinking, a surge of conflict. He predicted the Internet wars. He predicted cancel culture. He predicted political polarization, and he warned, the crowd is not wise. It is hungry. The Internet fed that hunger endlessly. Chapter 1-5. The shadow of the algorithm algorithms are designed to keep you online. They study your behavior. They analyze your emotions. They track your fears, desires, weaknesses, impulses, and they feed you exactly what keeps you hooked. Jung would say, the algorithm is a modern trickster, playful, unpredictable, and dangerous. But it is more than that. Algorithms amplify your shadow. They show you the things that provoke you, excite you, anger you, validate you, seduce you, manipulate you. Shadow is everything you hide from yourself. Anger, envy, insecurity, desire, fear, hostility, judgment. And Jung warned, if the shadow is not recognized, it acts. Today, people act out their shadow online. Rage tweets, anonymous attacks, cruelty in comments, tribal mob, cyberbullying, compulsive comparison, obsessive consumption. The algorithm doesn't just reflect your shadow, it weaponizes it. This is exactly the psychic disaster Jung predicted. Chapter 16, The Erosion of the Self. Jung believed that the most important task of human life is individuation, becoming your true, whole, authentic self, but individuation requires silence, reflection, solitude, introspection, honest confrontation with your unconscious. The digital world destroys all of these. Instead of becoming ourselves, we become distracted, divided, overstimulated, manipulated, disconnected from our inner life. Jung would say, technology is separating man from his soul, and he predicted the exact mechanism. Inner life will be replaced by external excitement, leaving man spiritually empty. The internet delivers non-stop excitement, but emptiness grows anyway. This is the paradox Jung foresaw. The more connected the world becomes, the more disconnected the individual becomes. Chapter 17. The meme as modern MYT. Jung believed that myth was the language of the unconscious. The deep symbolic stories that shape how people behave, think, and feel. Today, myth is not in religion, not in poetry, not in sacred texts. It's in memes. Memes spread like wildfire. They capture feelings that cannot be spoken. They represent shared psychic patterns. They function exactly like ancient symbols. Jung would say that memes are modern archetypes, digital myths, symbolic energy moving across the collective. He would see memes as expressions of the trickster archetype, the shadow archetype, the hero archetype, the fool archetype, the outcast archetype. He predicted that modern myth would be decentralized and that symbols would move globally, instantly. This is precisely what memes are. He predicted it with uncanny accuracy. Chapter 18, The Digital Mirror and the Rise of Self-Hatred. Jung emphasized that self-hatred arises when a person's inner life is neglected, when people compare themselves to impossible standards, when people feel disconnected from their true identity. Today, the internet is the perfect breeding ground for this misery. Every scroll is a comparison. Every post is a standard you must measure up to. Every influencer is a mirror of inadequacy. Jung predicted the psychological collapse that comes from comparing yourself to idealized images. He said, the greatest trap is the imitation of a life that is not your own. Instagram made this trap inescapable. Jung believed that if people live in comparison, they lose their individuality, and he warned, the more externalized a person becomes, the more he hates the emptiness within. This is the silent epidemic of the digital age. Chapter 19, The AI Psyche, Humanity's New God. Jung famously believed that humanity is always in danger of creating new gods, unconscious forces that control us. In 1957, he said, man will create powers that seem godlike, yet he will not comprehend them. This describes artificial intelligence perfectly. Systems we don't understand, machines that think faster than we do, algorithms that predict us, technologies built from our own psychological patterns, digital entities that learn, evolve, adapt, tools that shape belief, behavior, and identity. Jung would ask, who controls whom? Do we use technology, or does technology use us? He predicted that future humans would surrender their thinking to external systems, and today, people ask AI what to wear, eat, think, believe, write, decide. Jung warned, when a man ceases to think for himself, the unconscious takes over. The internet is becoming our unconscious. AI is becoming our mind. And Jung predicted this with frightening clarity. Chapter 2:0, The Collapse of Ing. Believed modern humanity suffers from a crisis of meaning, a spiritual emptiness created by disconnection from the unconscious. He said, man cannot stand a meaningless life. But the digital world floods us with content, overwhelms us with choice, exhausts us with stimulation, distracts us from purpose, destroys attention, fragments the psyche. This results in existential dread, nihilism, spiritual collapse, purposelessness, depression, identity confusion. Jung warned that when people lose meaning, they turn to ideology, extremism, escapism, fantasy, addiction, destructive behaviors, and this is exactly what we see in the online world. The internet promised information. It delivered confusion. It promised connection. It delivered isolation. It promised meaning. It delivered emptiness. Jung foresaw every step of this collapse.